Gunsmoke actress hid the truth while filming. Have you ever felt like you know all there is to know about your favorite old TV shows? Consider again. Even the most devoted fan may be startled to realize that there's always some intriguing snippet of information that they missed. These lesser-known facts about old TV series may surprise you, from performers who were younger than their on-screen children to the show that paid extras to be on set. Take a look and see how many you recognize. I Love Lucy was one of the first television programs to be filmed on 35mm film instead of being shown live. I Love Lucy was a television show. CBS was the original network. Estimated budget for production, $40,000 to $50,000 per week. To put it simply, I Love Lucy was a cultural phenomenon. The performances of Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz established the bar for television humor. The show debuted in 1951 and rapidly became a fan favorite. I Love Lucy shattered the pattern at a time when live television was all the industry knew. The presentation was among the first to be filmed on 35mm film rather than kinescope and televised live. Desi Arnaz, who was Cuban-American, was also one of the first Latino actors to appear on the program. As a consequence, numerous possibilities for Latinx performers in Hollywood have arisen as a result of the program. The Dick Van Dyke Show was nearly as popular as the Johnny Carson Show. The Dick Van Dyke Show. CBS was the network. Estimated budget for each episode, $40,000. The Dick Van Dyke Show debuted in 1961 and lasted until 1966. However, the Dick Van Dyke Show was nearly not named. Originally, creator Carl Reiner intended for the program to be called Head of the Family, and Dick Van Dyke wasn't even supposed to be the show's star. Rob Petrie's starring role was originally meant for comedian Johnny Carson. Fortunately for Van Dyke, Carson didn't work out. Dick was cast in the part, and the title of the show was later modified to reflect the main actor's stage name. As they say, the rest is history. Wagon Train aided in the promotion of colored television sets. Show, Wagon Train. Network, NBC. Estimated budget per episode, $100,000. Wagon Train was a well-known Western drama that provided more than simply amusement. It also helped to promote colored television sets. But how could a Western-themed television program promote a technology that didn't exist at the time? It's straightforward. Wagon Train was broadcast on NBC in black and white, as did most other series at the time. After 4 seasons without color, the show's 5th season was shot in color to showcase its parent company's, RCA's, new color television. Talk about employing all their resources and going all out. Andy's desk is covered with upside-down maps of Idaho and Nevada. The show, Andy Griffith Show. Network, CBS. Estimated budget, unknown. The Andy Griffith Show aired from the autumn of 1960 to the spring of 1968 and chronicled the lives of Sheriff Andy Taylor, his son Opie, played by a young Ron Howard, and his deputy Barney Fife. Every week, families would tune in to sing along with the show's catchy theme tune and see what mischief the crew would get up to. Even the most ardent viewers didn't look closely at the map beneath Andy's desk in his workspace. They would have observed that the maps of Idaho and Nevada were reversed. Leave It to Beaver was the first television sitcom to show a portion of a toilet in 1957. Show, Leave It to Beaver. CBS, 1957 to 1958, and ABC, 1958 to 1963 were the networks. Estimated budget for production, $25,000 to $60,000 for each episode. The show, Leave It to Beaver, debuted in 1957 and chronicles the mishaps of the Cleaver family's 2 kids, Wally and Theodore, also known as Beaver, who frequently find themselves in trouble despite their best attempts. During the show's 6-season run, it achieved various milestones and broke several unusual records. One of the many things Leave It to Beaver did to help break down the limitations of what can be accepted on film was to show a toilet, or a portion of one. One of the program's cast members developed a renowned buffet chain named after the show. The show is called Bonanza. NBC was the original network. Estimated budget for each episode, $225,000. Bonanza was a Western that ran on NBC from 1959 to 1973 for individuals who can't remember waking up. Not only was Bonanza one of the longest-running series of its time, but it was also one of the most costly to produce, with each episode costing more than $200,000 to produce. A few years into the show's historic run, Dan Blocker, who portrayed Hoss Cartwright, capitalized on the show's fame by opening the Bonanza restaurant franchise. There was a time when Bonanza would have competed with Outback Steakhouse, but that time has passed. In 2009, Blocker's chain filed for bankruptcy. The network wanted to get rid of Spock because he resembled Satan. Star Trek, NBC. Estimated budget for each episode, $200,000. The revolutionary science fiction series Star Trek, created by Gene Roddenberry, premiered on NBC in 1966. It had a varied ensemble, including the sophisticated and charismatic Captain James T. Kirk, Dr. Spock, the half-human who utilized logic to solve impossible issues, and Dr. Leonard McCoy, the show's straight-edged comedic relief. Ironically, network executives were initially uninterested in Spock because he seemed too devilish. However, once Star Trek had high initial ratings and Spock's devoted fandom materialized virtually out of thin air, they were forced to keep him. On WKRP in Cincinnati, Herb Tarlek did wear a costume constructed from Volkswagen seat coverings. WKRP in Cincinnati was the show, CBS was the network, and its budget is unknown. The popular classic comedy included several memorable characters and incidents. One notable scene showed Herb Tarlek wearing a gaudy Argyle pattern suit, to which Venus Flytrap, another iconic character, responds, "Somewhere out there, there's a Volkswagen with no seats." And there was. In yet another example of vintage television comedy making fun of itself, Herb Tarlek's costume was constructed from Volkswagen seat covers. Gene Hackman and Jeffrey Hunter were both considered for the role of Mike Brady. The Brady Bunch, ABC. Estimated budget per production, $1,100 per week per kid actor. This popular classic comedy is recognized and adored by people all around the globe, whether they saw it when it first aired, via repeats, or through modern-day films. But did you know there was another candidate in the race to replace Mike Brady? Robert Reed would not have played Mike Brady if Para Studios had rejected Sherwood Schwartz's suggestion of a lesser-known Gene Hackman taking on the part. Is it possible that if Hackman had been cast as Mike Brady, he would have missed out on portraying Lex Luthor? Perhaps, instead of being typecast as the wholesome television father, Robert Reed wins the part. The name Angels was inspired by an old office artwork held by Frank Sinatra. Charlie's Angels, ABC. Estimated budget per episode, $310,000 to $450,000. Charlie's Angels was a successful 1970s crime thriller about three female private investigators before it became a pair of blockbuster Hollywood pictures. It was full of mystery and adventure, and it was a tremendous success with audiences everywhere. Despite the show's surprise, many viewers missed the riddle offered to them to solve. The origin of the show's title remains a mystery. It was inspired by a picture of three angels that Kate Jackson observed on the wall of producer Aaron Spelling's cottage on the Fox site. The picture was once owned by the one and only Frank Sinatra. Passengers paid hundreds of dollars to be aboard the Love Boat when it was being filmed. The Love Boat, ABC. Budget, $250,000 for each episode. The legendary television program aired for 9 seasons and was set on a cruise ship. The Love Boat's ship, on the other hand, was no ordinary set. It was a genuine cruise ship. It was shot on various genuine cruise ships throughout the years, but that's not even the most intriguing aspect of the program. Many fans of the program want to be passengers aboard the Love Boat. The majority of the passengers were not paid extras for the spectacle, They were fans who spent thousands of dollars to appear in the backdrop of their favorite show's episode. Because of the Kennedy assassination, the flag is flown at half-mast in the opening credits of Gilligan's Island. Gilligan's Island, CBS. Estimated budget per episode, $200,000 to $250,000. Gilligan's Island, one of the most iconic of all classic TV series, captivated adventure seekers throughout the country from 1964 to 1967, and for many years of repeats thereafter. It's also one of the programs in which every aspect has been meticulously examined and dissected by enthusiasts. If you want to learn some intriguing information about the island, you need to start from the beginning. The beginning credits. Have you ever seen the flag at the beginning credits? In case you missed it, the flag was flown at half-mast since filming took place soon after JFK's assassination. Johnny Carson and Joan Rivers had a serious falling out. The Johnny Carson Show, NBC, estimated budget per episode $15,000 to $100,000. From 1962 until 1992, The Johnny Carson Show aired. During the show's 6,714 episode run, host Johnny Carson interviewed hundreds of superstars, interesting persons, and regular people. He even had his dear friend Joan Rivers as a regular guest presenter till the day he thought she turned on him. Few people realized that Johnny Carson had a serious falling out with Joan Rivers when he found out about her talk show before she could tell him. Carson valued loyalty and friendship so tightly that the imagined betrayal was enough to permanently ruin their connection. The Addams Family was the first television family to own a computer. The Addams Family, ABC, estimated unknown production budget. This iconic television series was unlike any other. It came after Mr. and Mrs. Addams, as well as Gomez and Morticia. Wednesday and Pugsley are their children. Uncle Fester, the children's eccentric uncle. The Gothic, partly undead dynasty elevated family values to new heights and wasn't ashamed to flaunt them. The Addams home and manner of life had an old-fashioned vibe to them, making viewers feel like they were members of the family. They were, however, the first television family to own a personal computer, which was more than merely unusual at the time. Gunsmoke popularized the idiom, "get the hell out of Dodge." Gunsmoke, CBS, $150,000 per episode budget. Gunsmoke, one of television's longest-running Western series, has a huge effect on American pop culture. One of its most significant achievements was popularizing the expression, "get the hell out of Dodge," which means to leave a situation quickly. The expression originated in Dodge City, Kansas, a rough-and-tumble town that was often shown in the program. Gunsmoke was essential in introducing the expression to a national audience in the 1950s, demonstrating the depth of television's cultural impact stretching back decades. One of the bigger hassles during the shooting of the show was to include Amanda Blake in it, as during the shooting of the show she was harboring a horrible secret on Gunsmoke. She was suffering from severe depression and alcoholism. Her drug issues were so bad that she was regularly missing from the set. She would sometimes come up intoxicated or high. She would just refuse to leave her trailer in such circumstances. As a consequence, the producers were forced to become inventive to conceal her absence from the audience. In one episode, Miss Kitty is supposed to be going to a dance at the Long Branch Saloon. Amanda Blake, however, was too inebriated to film the sequence, so they had to shoot it without her. To conceal her disappearance, they videotaped Miss Kitty entering the saloon from one viewpoint and then leaving the saloon from another. They accomplished this by filming the sequence twice, once with Amanda Blake and once without. It's difficult to picture Gunsmoke without the renowned Miss Kitty Russell, but Amanda Blake's severe melancholy and alcoholism made it seem very real at times. Fortunately, like they say, hard work pays off. The producers were able to discover ingenious methods to disguise Miss Kitty's absences from viewers and keep the character alive for 19 seasons. That's an achievement in itself. Mork's crimson outfit for Mork and Mindy was a repurposed Star Trek The Original Series costume. Mork and Mindy, ABC, $150,000 to $250,000 budget per episode. Before appearing as a grown-up Peter Pan in Hook, a father who would do everything to be with his kids in Mrs. Doubtfire, or voicing the genie in Aladdin, Robin Williams got the part of Mork, the alien, on ABC's Mork and Mindy from 1978 to 1982. Mork's crimson outfit was a recycled costume from Star Trek, the original series, which fans didn't realize would be wonderful trivia night information. While certain changes were made to make the jumpsuit more appropriate for the Mork persona, it was a repurposed outfit from the classic science fiction series. The Jetsons was the first color television program to air on ABC. The Jetsons, ABC, unknown production budget. By the start of the 1960s, more and more American families possessed televisions. Even still, just 3% of families could afford color television sets. As demand for color TVs increased, if slowly, broadcasting firms stepped up and provided consumers with what they wanted. There are more color shows. Although it was an animated rather than live-action show, The Jetsons was the first non-black and white program aired on ABC when it debuted in 1962. The Jetsons, like the gadgets and gizmos they employed on the program, were ahead of their time. On Cheers, George Wendt's real wife is portrayed as Norm's wife. Cheers, NBC, $2.2 million budget per episode. Cheers is one of the most popular sitcoms of all time, and for good reason. The show had sharp comedy, a will they, won't they love story, really two of them, and a cast of fascinating characters capable of enthralling viewers for 275 episodes over 11 seasons. During the show's run, the ensemble became more like family than co-workers, yet there were members of the group who were related. George Wendt's real-life wife was Norm's on-screen wife. It's no surprise their chemistry seemed so genuine. Barbara Eden was upset when Jeannie and Tony Nelson married. I Dream of Jeannie, NBC, unknown production budget. This sitcom, which starred Barbara Eden and Larry Hagman and ran from 1965 to 1970, was extremely unique at the time. This 1960s comedy sitcom follows 2,000-year-old Jeannie, who's liberated by astronaut Tony Nelson after inadvertently opening her bottle. What followed was a hectic 5-season run with ups and downs, one of which was not seen on television. Tony and Jeannie marry after spending so much time together. The plotline didn't sit well with Barbara Eden, Jeannie. She believed it detracted from the magic of the show. Land of the Giants was the most costly television program made at the time of its launch. Land of the Giants, ABC, $250,000 production budget. Irwin Allen's Land of the Giants only lasted 2 seasons and produced 51 episodes, but it developed a cult following that has now grown into its entity. The show featured a group of 8 individuals who crash-landed on an extraterrestrial planet inhabited by beings 12 times their size. Land of the Giants was the most costly television program ever produced at the time of its premiere in 1968, costing around $250,000 each episode. Fans of the program will remember it for its innovative special effects, as well as its treatment of issues such as racism and social justice. Al Lewis, the Munsters' grandfather, was only 41 years old, half a year younger than his on-screen daughter, Yvonne DiCarlo. The Munsters, CBS, unknown budget. The hilarious activities of the eccentric, charming family that lived at 1313 Mockingbird Lane were depicted in this classic comedy. Grandpa and his daughter Lily were 2 of the Munsters family's favorite characters. As convincing as their on-screen relationship was, there was a hidden meaning to their outfits that not all fans were aware of. While they portrayed father and daughter on the program, Al Lewis was really half a year younger than Yvonne DiCarlo. William Tallman was fired for breaking his morality clause. Perry Mason, CBS, unknown production budget. Perry Mason's renowned district attorney Hamilton Berger, portrayed by William Tallman, was fired for breaking his morality clause. He was arrested in 1960 while at a party where marijuana was being used and was suspected of using the drug. He was fired from the program despite his apologies and assurances not to breach the provision again. Another era, another location. If Tallman had lived today, instead of being dismissed, he'd most likely be the face of Tilray, Canopy, or another significant player in the cannabis sector. The Running for Honor episode of Quantum Leap cost the network $500,000. Quantum Leap, NBC, estimated budget per episode $1 million. Quantum Leap was a popular science fiction program that aired in the late 1980s and early 1990s, and it wasn't hesitant to explore controversial topics. The program first aired on NBC, and the network lost $500,000 due to a contentious episode, Running for Honor. It was a 60s-themed episode in which Beckett stepped in to protect a homosexual cadet. NBC lost $500,000 because the sponsors dropped their advertising from the show after realizing that the cadet's life would be preserved rather than lost. On the set of the A-Team, Bad Attitude and Hannibal did not get along. The A-Team, NBC, unknown budget. The A-Team, which premiered in the early 1980s, had a group of co-stars who looked to be fairly close on screen. Mr. T took on the role of Bad Attitude Baracus, while George Peppard took on the role of Hannibal Smith. Apart from appearances, Peppard and Mr. T didn't get along in real life, reportedly because Peppard was upset because not only was Mr. T a greater headliner than him, but he was also paid more for the show. During the program, the buzzers of Jeopardy competitors are sometimes blocked. Jeopardy, NBC, estimated budget for production $5 million per year. Many people's favorite game show is Jeopardy, and you may have happy recollections of calling out the answers while watching it. You probably weren't aware, but Jeopardy competitors' buzzers are occasionally blocked on the program. The buzzers are blocked for a quarter second after the host finishes reading the question. This feature acts as a digital comp, preventing individuals from hitting the buzzer all at once, resulting in confusion and low scores. Mary Kay and Johnny was the very first comedy. Mary Kay and Johnny, Dumont Original Network, estimated budget per production $10,000 to $50,000 per episode. Those sitcoms seem to be a product of the 1970s and 1980s. They've been there since post-World War II. Sitcoms are older than you'd believe, with Mary Kay and Johnny premiering in 1947. The comedy recounted the exploits of a married couple and was popular, with an estimated 300 episodes. Mary Kay and Johnny debuted on the Dumont TV network before moving to CBS and eventually NBC. Gertrude Berg authored all of the Goldbergs episodes. The Goldbergs, CBS, estimated budget $10,000 to $50,000 per episode. You've certainly heard of the Goldbergs, but there was another comedy with the same name that aired on the radio a century ago. Following its radio run, it ran on CBS in the 1940s and 1950s. The program, which focused on a Jewish family living in the Bronx, was innovative for its day, not just because of its subject matter, but also because it was written and starred by a woman, Gertrude Berg.